What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC Fight Night, Whittaker versus Gastelum. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Tony Gravely versus Anthony Burchak. To me, I don't see how this fight goes any different than Anthony Burchak's last fight. I think that his opponent basically took him down, top controlled him until he got tired, and then finished him. I think Tony Gravely's just as good a wrestler as the Mexican guy. I can't remember what his name was, but the guy who Burchak just fought. I think Tony Gravely is the exact same fighter, just a better wrestler overall. So I think the exact same thing is going to happen with the same type of first round TKO or submission with a rear naked choke from in the first round. So I'm going with Tony Gravely. Next is Austin Hubbard versus Dakota Bush, and to me, Dakota Bush looks decent. He's like a okay up and comer. He's primarily a grappler. He's got some striking. I just think Austin Hubbard is going to be able to stuff takedowns and slowly whittle away at this guy, because Austin Hubbard didn't take this fight on short notice, and I always thought he probably was going to have the better cardio than Dakota, and I just think the fact that Dakota took this fight on such short notice is going to favor Hubbard even more. So I've got Hubbard winning by second or third round TKO. Next is Gerald Meerschaert versus Bart's Finbisky, and to me, Bart's is primarily just a wrestler. I feel like his striking's okay. His grappling overall is okay. It's mainly his takedown ability and top control. I think if this is just straight grappling, Gerald is the much better grappler. I also think he's the better striker overall. I think this is going to be kind of like what happened to Bartz in his last fight. I think eventually Gerald is going to catch him in something once it hits the ground. I think they're going to strike for a little bit. Bartz is going to go for a takedown. And once they're on the ground, eventually Gerald is going to catch him in something like an armbar or triangle. So I'm going with Gerald to win by first or second round submission. Next is Juliana Pena versus Lupita Gonzina, and to me, both these chicks are just okay. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way. It kind of depends on how Jessica Pena looks after all this time off. If she looks like how she used to, I think she wins a close decision or wins by submission. I don't have much to say about this fight. I think it's pretty close. Next is Alexander Romanov versus Juan Espino, and this fight's hard because both these guys are such strong wrestlers, and both of them are not the greatest strikers. And I feel like it's really just going to come down to who's the better wrestler. And it's tough to tell because they both just kind of beat people the exact same way. I'm honestly surprised this fight is happening like right now in their career. It feels like these are the two type of guys you'd want to build up, especially because I think they can beat a lot of the guys in the top 15. This is like doing Covington, Usman. I'm not saying, it's hard to tell if they're that good, but it feels like they're around that level, just how easily they're able to get these takedown on guys and just beat them up from the top. And I'm not a fan of, I think the UFC really doesn't like high-level wrestlers for whatever reason, and they just want to knock them off. And, I'm not saying all the time, but these guys kind of have almost like that Habib, Usman, Covington style, where they just take guys down, kick the shit out of them, and then either TKO them or submit them. So it's hard to tell who's going to win, but I'm going to lean ever so slightly towards Juan Espino. I just prefer his top game a little bit more. I also prefer his overall wrestling a little bit more. To me, it looks a little bit cleaner, and because of that, I'm leaning towards Espino to win a decision. Next is Tracy Cortez versus Justine Kish, and to me, Kish is primarily like a striker with some grappling. I think Cortez is a really, really good wrestler, and I think we're just going to see Cortez take Kish down over and over again and win a dominant 30-27 decision. I don't think this fight's going to be close at all. Next is, onto the main card, the next fight is Luis Pena versus Alexander Munoz. To me, I think that there's just a really big advantage striking-wise for Pena. I'm not saying he's a great striker, but I think he's definitely the better striker of these two. I think overall wrestling and jiu-jitsu-wise, Alexander's probably the slightly better wrestler, but I think overall grappling, Pena's probably a lot better. The one thing I have with Pena is sometimes when he's fighting good wrestlers, he tends to kind of give up position here and there. And I could absolutely see Munoz grinding out a decision win here, just if he takes advantage of Luis's just kind of weird grappling style and weird way of giving up position. I just think if Luis is smart, he keeps this on the feet. Because like I said, I think his striking isn't amazing, but it's still good. As where to me, Alexander just kind of seems okay at striking at best. So I'm leaning towards Luis. I think he should win at least a 29-20 decision as long as he's smart about the overall grappling. Next is Abdullah Razak Al Sahan versus Jacob Mulhern, and To me, both these guys are coming off of knockout losses. Alsahan 2 in a row, Jacob 1. The difference is I feel like Alsahan's losing to really good people, and Jacob lost to kind of a mediocre guy who's just getting a lot of hype. Um, this fact that Alsahan's moving back up to middleweight also makes me favor him because I feel like a lot of why he was losing kind of so badly was the big weight cut misses. I think even though he's not the biggest middleweight, he's just so big in terms of muscle mass that I think the middleweight is going to help him because he's not going to be as dehydrated. I just think that the way Jacob got knocked out was because of a speed disadvantage, and I think that the same speed advantage that I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who knocked him out really fast was just faster than him. And I think Alsahan has that same type of speed advantage. I think he's just going to close the distance on Jacob quick and just throw a lot of fast punch combos and knock him out early. So I'm leaning towards Alsahan to win by KO in the first round. Next is Andrei Arlovski versus Chase Sherman, and this is basically just two good kickboxers going at it. And if there's one thing I've seen is that Andrei Arlovski still has really good kickboxing, and he's able to beat most of these young up and comers because I just think his striking is still at a high level. I don't think Chase Sherman's ever been the greatest striker ever. I mean, his record when he left the UFC was like 2-4, and a lot of his losses were against just good strikers. And I feel like a lot of them were against guys that Andrei Arlovski, even though he has losses to, he beat. Like Chase Sherman got TKO'd by Walt Harris, and I thought Andrei Arlovski pretty clearly beat Harris 2-1, even though it turned into a no contest and Harris won it. And then I think Chase Sherman might have also lost to Augusto Sakai, and that's another fight that Andrei Arlovski lost. But I'm pretty sure anyone who's watched that fight thought Arlovski won it 2-1 as well. So I'm just saying, I feel like Sherman's lost to a lot of guys that Arlovski beat, in my opinion. And I think this is going to be the same thing. I think Arlovski's just the better kickboxer, and I think he wins either a decision or a late TKO. Next is Jeremy Stephens versus Drakkar Klose. And this fight is so tough because I can easily see Drakkar just kind of dancing around him the outside for 3 straight rounds. Drakkar has great conditioning. Like, if he really wanted to, it wouldn't be that hard for him to just avoid Jeremy for 3 straight rounds. Kind of like how he did to Bobby Green and, like, other guys. I think that Jeremy's really going to have to use the forward pressure to close the distance. And it's tough because I don't know where Jeremy is at this point in his career. I still think he's really good. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. He's always kind of struggled with guys like these. Guys who are really good at moving away from him. And, that's just my biggest fear. I am leaning towards Jeremy just because I think he is the overall better fighter. But I could easily see Drakkar just winning a very dominant decision just because, like I said, if he's on his bike the whole time, he could easily beat Jeremy because Jeremy's always had a hard time beating guys that just continuously run away from him. So I'm leaning towards Jeremy. I do think he's the better power puncher, and I do think that he'll eventually catch Drakkar. But like I said, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Drakkar wins this. Next is Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum, and this is the thing. I think that Robert Whittaker is completely capable of doing what Darren Till did to Kelvin. I think Kelvin has a hard time fighting guys that, are able to kind of control the distance on him. I think Kelvin's always been. This is just the simple truth. He's not a big middleweight, and I think that the Israel fight was just because Israel was willing to engage him in that type of fight. I think the Darren Till fight is a much more accurate way to look at Kelvin when he fights a lot of these bigger middleweights, where it's like if they're able to control the striking from the outside and the inside and just clinch with him whatever they want, they kind of negate a lot of his offense. And I think that Robert Whittaker can essentially do exactly what Till did, if not more dominantly, because his wrestling's a lot better. And I think that this fight, I don't think it's going to be super exciting. I mean, it could be. You never know. But I just think that Whittaker will do what Till did and, strike with him from the outside. And then anytime Kelvin tries to really force to close the distance, Whittaker just clinches with him and kind of just beats him up there because he's bigger and a better wrestler. I don't really see Kelvin getting takedowns on Whittaker. And even if he does, I don't think he holds him down for long. And vice versa. I mean, Whittaker, I don't think will be able to hold Kelvin down for super long either, but the other really big thing is Kelvin took this fight on short notice and Whittaker didn't. And I always thought that if these two fought, Whittaker would have a big advantage in conditioning, and I still think that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Whittaker gets a late TKO. I think other than the first round or two, the longer this goes, it greatly favors Whittaker, and I just see him winning a pretty dominant decision, like a 49-46 decision. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.